Hello, my name is Christine and I run a vintage shop called Prima Treasures on Etsy. Today I wanted to talk to you about this unusual item that I found and kind of, give an idea of how you can take something that seems like maybe it's not a great fit for you or, it's kind of an obscure piece and reimagine it as something that kind of fits in with whatever you've got going on. So what we have here is a fountain pen that I hope you can read right here. It says Chicago's World Fair 1933. So it's basically an antique fountain pen, but it's also unusual because, thanks to the World's Fair angle, it was a souvenir. They were giving them away or possibly selling them cheap. And the other kind of strange thing about it is that it's actually oversized. I don't know if you can see the scale right there, but you can see if I pick this up, it's kind of comically huge, really. So, it's got a number of sort of odd things going for it, but sometimes that's helpful because, whether you're someone who lives in Chicago or someone who collects things from World's Fairs, or, you just have some connection to the writing angle, I could definitely see this being a cool display prop for someone who is a writer or potentially someone who's an architect or a designer. I mean, anything in that sort of creative / technical field would work. In this particular case, the fountain pen came to us with an antique inkwell right here. And so for the most part, when I get things together, I try to keep them together. But in this case, I've given people the option to pick one or the other, so you don't have to buy them as a pair if you don't want to. But, it kind of, in my mind, they make a nice display pairing because you've got the fountain pen and then the inkwell that would theoretically be used with the fountain pen. So if you were going for a display, this would be a good way to do it. So, as I said, it's kind of an unusual piece, but because it's so big and because it has, a souvenir type of connection, I think it can still work as a display for a larger group of people. And this is something that, again, it's old and it would be nice to kind of preserve things like this. Because can you imagine handing something like this to a 15 or 25-year-old and explaining to them how one would write with something like this? I mean, that's got to be an interesting conversation, I would think. So even as a conversation piece, something like this works. And again, it's so comically huge that I can't imagine a younger person looking at this and thinking, wow, they would be baffled for sure and not understand how you could write with this. But, there are people who actually still try to preserve, ornate handwriting, calligraphy, things along those lines. And having something like this to play around with would be an interesting option for them too. So I mostly just want to put this out there because I do think it's a kind of unusual piece. And, there are probably people who would enjoy it as a gift or as a prop for their home office. But maybe it doesn't occur to them to seek this kind of thing out. So in some ways, if you're somebody who's into vintage, it helps for you to kind of be an evangelist of saving these old treasures and kind of expanding other people's horizon and share your love of vintage with them, which is something that I try to do on a regular basis at Christmas and birthdays and things like that. I think of, what is this person's interests and are there vintage items that actually tie into that? So I hope you've learned something today and I appreciate you watching. Thank you.